tap room's full of townsmen half gone with drink. I was worried some of them might venture up here in search of, well...
From a shy young Highlander to fierce warrior and clan leader, and later devoted husband and father. Whether you call him...
James, Alexander, Malcolm, Mackenzie, Fraser.
Or simply the king of men, this handsome Scot is a force of nature. Hi, I'm Joy. Let's look back at our favourite Jamie moments from past seasons. Some shirtless, some not. Jamie and Claire's first horse ride.
Stop! Help, it's going over!
Yes, we're going all the way back to the beginning, and I for one would be lying if I said I didn't like him right from episode 1. You? Who can forget that Jamie first met Claire after she was found wandering through the woods, post-time travel, and was nearly assaulted by Blackjack Randall? Well, Jamie's caring character became apparent straight away when he, despite being injured, still took Claire onto his horse and tried to keep her warm. Eventually, he does fall off. Granted, he's been shot. After Claire tended his wounds, she, and most Outlander viewers, had no chance of not falling for him.
Thank you, Sassenach.
Who can resist such a sincere thank you, right? And Claire would soon learn even more about his selfless nature. The origin of his scars.
You're a kind woman. With a good touch.
In the touching fireplace scene, Claire first sees the scars on Jamie's back. As he reveals the story behind it, we see his tender and vulnerable side. We also learn how being selfless is second nature to Jamie. In this case, he willingly accepted the severe flogging to protect his sister, Jenny, from Randall's cruel intentions. It was brutal, but showed that Jamie would do absolutely anything for those he loves, a theme that continues throughout all 5 seasons. Later in the scene, Claire feels safe enough to tell him her backstory in return.
You need not be scared of me. Nor anyone else here. So long as I'm with you.
His response will forever remain a fan favourite, wouldn't you agree? Oh, and forgive me if I digress quickly. It wasn't long into season 1 before Jamie selflessly protected another lady. This one I wouldn't call a fan favourite. You've probably guessed her name by now. Remember when Leary was sentenced to a public beating, which would sully her reputation? Of course, Jamie did the honourable thing. He took the beating for her to save her name. If only this didn't result in her becoming obsessed with him. He just can't help being a gentleman. There's a first time for everything.
As far as you're concerned, we could just start the honeymoon tomorrow.
Jamie took being selfless to a whole new level when he agreed to marry Claire to protect her from the Redcoats. Although we might debate how selfless it really was, knowing he'd loved her since he first laid eyes on her. He's just human after all. In any case, the couple's premarital conversation about the soon-to-be wedding continues to be a gem. More specifically, Jamie's response to Claire's concern.
Well, doesn't it bother you that I'm not a virgin?
No. As long as it doesn't bother you that I am.
Well now, who saw that admission coming? Certainly not me, but I'm pretty sure you'd agree that the wedding night and the couple's awkward first time will forever be one of Jamie's best. Of course, even the king of men has his off days. I'm referring to his old-school discipline sesh with Claire after she endangered everyone's lives. Still, I'm sure we can overlook that one slip-up in the bigger scheme of things. There's one act of heroism in particular that stands out. Wentworth Prison, saving Claire's life. The amount of times Jamie's come to the stubborn Claire's rescue, especially in season 1, has become a bit of a running joke among many fans.
I'll thank you to take your hands off my wife.
The Fort William rescue remains one of my favourites, and yours? Granted, the modern-day Englishwoman was simply enjoying her honeymoon in the future when she was suddenly dropped in the past and had to fend for her life. So it's only natural that she had to go through an adjustment period. Also, she eventually had her fair share of saving Jamie's life in turn, like sleeping with the King of France in turn for her husband's release from prison, not to mention tending to his considerable amount of wounds, and in season 5, even a snake bite. Yes, I think we can call him even. But wait, I digress. The season 1 finale ended pretty brutally. Yes, sadly, the honeymoon bliss came to an abrupt halt when Jamie made the ultimate sacrifice in turn for Claire's life, and kept his promise to her that she'd always have the protection of his body.
And if necessary, the protection of my body as well.
At the hands of the sadistic Blackjack, he experienced the most indescribable agony. I'd certainly not call it a moment I want to remember, but it is for sure his most selfless act ever. The young Fraser's strong sense of duty and integrity also extended to his clansmen. Tough decisions. Honor versus love.
A battle of Culloden will happen.
Some may call it foolish, but knowing Jamie, no one really expected him to leave behind his men. Both he and Claire knew the Jacobites would fail in their uprising, and that his chance of survival was slim to none. In spite of the odds, Jamie still led Clan Fraser in the battle against the Redcoats. His code of honor simply wouldn't allow him to let his fellow Scots die in battle without fighting alongside them. Of course, there was nothing he wanted more than to spend the rest of his life with Claire and see their unborn baby, Brianna, grow up, especially after Claire miscarried their first child. But once again, Jamie sacrificed his own needs. That's why the season 2 finale, when he sends Claire back through the stones to a safer time, is so gut-wrenching.
When I stand before God, I'll have one thing to say to weigh against all the rest. Lord, you gave me a rare woman.
It's definitely high on the list of Jamie's most tear-jerking moments ever. The Highlander's enviable moments don't end there. When he shared his surname generously. The relationship between Fergus and Jamie added a deeper dimension to the story. It also showcased the Scots' fatherly instincts. Although some of their dealings were a bit dubious, we'll forgive Jamie for that. The two first met in Paris, and Jamie hired the boy to be a pickpocket. In the end, Fergus travels back to Scotland with Jamie and Claire, where he continues to be a loyal asset. One of the most memorable scenes simply had to be on Fergus's wedding day, when the priest asks for his surname.
Just Fergus. Surely you have a surname, do you not?
Fraser. His name is Fergus Claudel Fraser.
Everyone can see how much it means to Fergus. Did that scene hit you in the feelings too? If so, then I'm pretty sure another emotional father-son moment left you in a puzzle of tears. Leaving behind a part of himself.
We're doing it again?
Once I'm not covered in mud and blood, someone else.
It's good to see that the cast had some fun behind the scenes, right? After Lady Geneva blackmailed him into a one-night stand with her, Jamie became a father. Viewers' hearts were broken because we could see how much he adored Willie. They bonded over horse riding and other father-son activities. Sadly, there was no way for Jamie to see his son grow up, what with his own criminal past and the fact that William was illegitimate. By this time, nobody even wondered whether Jamie would make the selfless decision. Of course he did. To spare Willie the fall from grace that would result if his true parentage was ever revealed, Jamie left Willie in the care of his close friend, Lord John Grey. It was a heartbreaking moment when he left Willie behind for good.
Keep it to remember me by.
But while he lost one child, life had already graced him with another, even though he had to wait 21 years. A sentimental first meeting. As you'll know, Jamie unfortunately didn't have the opportunity to raise either of his biological children. Considering how badly he's always wanted to be a father, the timing of their first meeting seems pretty unfair to both him and Brianna. He doesn't know it yet, but Bree survived an assault the night before. Well, let's just focus on the happier, even humorous part of this moment. The last thing Jamie probably expected was for his daughter to approach him in his time period, and that while he's finding a corner to urinate. Things are made even more awkward when Jamie thinks Brianna is just another lass trying to hit on him.
Sorry, lass. I'm a married man.
However, the moment when he realizes who she really is, the look on his face says it all.
My name is Brianna. I'm your daughter.
This is one of Jamie's best moments, and one we'd waited very long to see. There's another moment we probably should have seen coming, but didn't. When Jamie couldn't save his godfather.
Doesn't want him to die.
The circle of life is harsh and comes when least expected. Jamie can attest to that. Aside from Claire and his family, Marta was the one person who meant the most to him.
Even going back to episode 1 of this season, you see that moment when Jamie's just a wee boy and Marta promises to always be there for him.
Even when they were apart, the bond between them was always strong.
And it really is quite shocking for Jamie. He really loses one of his last members of his extended family, his last real contact to Scotland.
That's why this moment was so incredibly difficult to watch. Both Sam Heughan and Duncan Lacroix did stellar jobs in making this scene feel realistic. Kudos to them. The last moment for today shows Jamie in the role of supportive husband. Supporting Claire no matter what may come. Season 5's finale was probably on par with Season 1's horror ending. It's not a scene we really want to relive, but Jamie and the rest coming to Claire's rescue is truly touching. If only they'd made it a bit earlier, but as you know, things aren't fair in life or Outlander. One thing's for sure though, Brown and his men clearly didn't think things through when they harmed her.
How many? Kill them all.
It's a small consolation when, later in the episode, Brown oversteps his boundaries with Marcelly. She, unlike Claire, has no oath constraining her, and you know the rest. As Jamie and Claire pledge to meet the oncoming revolution as best they can, Jamie closes the scene in a way only he can do.
And the day shall come that we do part. If my last words are not, I love you, again, it's because I didn't have time.
Thanks for watching. It was pretty tough to narrow it down to only 10 scenes. How did we fare? Is there any scene you would have liked to see on this list? Don't be shy, tell us in the comments. And as always, stay awesome.